Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And here I have a great article for you guys from Fierce Wireless. I will leave a link to it in the description so you guys could check it out. So in this video, let's get real about millimeter wave. Let's talk about the facts of the millimeter wave and why it still remains underutilized by operators, even as they thirst for more spectrum. Let's speak about that. So the millimeter wave spectrum has its place. It's already being deployed, at least in the US, by Verizon and some AT&T, and even in some certain cases, T-Mobile. They're deploying it at large venues, NFL stadiums, NBA arenas, and just densely populated areas where it makes sense today. It's the greatest possible capacity layer you can offer in the wireless industry today. There's not one spectrum band today that can match the capacity, performance, and speed that millimeter wave presents in the wireless industry today. Now, here's the problem, and this is where it gets really bad for the consumer. And this is across the world. Any wireless carrier in Europe, Asia, whatever, this is going to drive consumer pricing higher if the millimeter wave deployment is taking more serious. The carriers understand that today, and that's why it still remains underutilized. So not too long ago, Verizon spent over $50 billion on C-band, which is a single mid-band layer that they got contiguous spectrum in. They spent over $50 billion. And to this day, even with the consumers paying $100 for the highest price points in the industry, or close to it at least, Verizon still hasn't seen a return on just that investment. So let's turn it around and let's speak on why this would become a negative for the consumer and would drive pricing up 1,000%. There's no doubt in my mind that if the carriers deployed millimeter wave to where it reached and extended and became a contiguous layer like midband in terms of mobile coverage, you will be paying more for that type of usage and for the carriers having to spend that type of capital and increase their operations cost to meet the needs of millimeter wave. So we know millimeter wave has propagation issues and it's limited in range. Millimeter wave doesn't even go half a mile. So what does that mean? It means in order to make millimeter wave work like midband and for your mobile connection to stay connected to millimeter wave, the carriers would have to deploy a millimeter wave node, a small cell node, every 1,000 to 1,500 feet. Let me repeat that. They would have to deploy every 1,000 to 1,500 feet. And I'll throw this in right away. Some municipalities don't even allow base stations to be deployed that close to each other. Some municipalities have restrictions. For example, El Paso, base stations have to be half a mile apart at least. That's small cell or tower. You cannot deploy a node 1,000 feet apart in my market today. And there's other municipalities out there across the United States where that is the same. So that's something that has to be taken into consideration. And trust me on this, you as the consumer, you do not want the carriers to deploy that type of millimeter wave model, because that $100 price point that you're paying today for the top tier unlimited plans, that will become $200 very quickly. And best believe, in order to get that experience, you're not getting that from any carrier, I don't care who it is, on the lowest entry plan. You're going to have to pay the highest price point to be able to get that type of millimeter wave experience. I guarantee it. The carriers would have to spend, their operations cost would increase so significantly if they had to deploy a node every 1,000 to 1,500 feet, hook up 10 gig fiber to all of it, have to provide 100 gig front haul to be able to supply all those nodes. And that just doesn't, and in order to make that a contiguous spectrum layer like mid-band performs today, that doesn't just stop on a certain street. Like, hey, I'm gonna deploy 15 nodes on this street. No, you have to deploy like 10,000 nodes in Manhattan, if not more. Like, let's say 50,000 nodes in Manhattan alone. And never mind the fact that you have to deploy indoor solutions in all buildings to make millimeter wave work like a low band, mid band connection. That I'm telling you right now, that would increase the cost for the consumer so much. And they're already on the mid-band layers today, which eventually will run out of bandwidth, right? It will happen. It will get congested. On that today, the carriers are already considering raising price on just the mid-band layer. And that hasn't even been deployed widely. So if they start to embark on a millimeter wave deployment with that type of density, oh, we're going to be paying way more out of pocket. I guarantee it. Close to 200 at least. They might even create a separate plan with that price point just for that experience. And the carriers wouldn't even attempt to do that because they can't guarantee a certain percentage of customer would even switch to that. So that's really where we stand today with the millimeter wave. It has such low range and such low propagation that you will have to deploy that extensively for you to even be connected to it like 40, 50% of the time. You might have to deploy 50,000 nodes inside of Manhattan, maybe more. And all the indoor solutions that would be required, it's just not financially feasible. And I think the carriers understand that. And that's why we see that trend globally where it remains underutilized. Because you don't know the outcome. This is a gamble. Can you deploy it in some areas? Yes. Can you deploy it in some neighborhoods and get ROI on providing fixed wireless access? Yes. But can you deploy it in such a way that it becomes a contiguous layer of connection for the mobile device, like a mid-band and a low band, and not expect pricing to significantly increase? No. Even with advancements, panels, increase in technology, millimeter wave will never be able to reach a mile. Not going to happen. Not even half a mile. It might go from 2,000 feet to reaching 3,000 feet, maybe 4,000 feet. But that's maybe the best it'll do. Maybe it can get to 0.1, 0.2 of a mile when you add in the low band and the mid band layer and you aggregate that. But even that would still require thousands of nodes everywhere. And then you have NIMBYs, you have people that are fighting against it to keep it out of the neighborhoods. So it doesn't seem feasible. So I don't ever see millimeter wave getting to that large of a deployment. Even in the mid-sized markets that are not as populated as, say, New York City, why would you even go there with that? So we just have to make sure that the FCC and the government work together to continuously release mid-band like 3.1 and 4.9, whatever. And we'll see what happens. But for now, this is bad for the consumer if any carrier embarks on that type of huge millimeter wave aggressive deployment. So make sure you stay tuned. If you're new, like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.